Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK'S, and it is the day after Thanksgiving. Many of us had a large meal, and maybe we're falling asleep, and then when it was actually time to go to sleep, we couldn't. And how often does that happen? Whether it's because we ate too much, we drank too much, we have anxiety, we're filled with fear, we're just filled with wonder or curiosity, we're obsessed with our electric technology, and we just can't put it down. Lots of reasons. We're going to be exploring that better in terms of how to sleep when you're anxious with our experts, Caroline Heward, the Harley Street stress expert. Our show today is the listening mentor. Caroline and I look at all types of scenarios that involve listening, also relationships and effective and ineffective patterns of communication. And we provide education, hope, and inspiration for you to take to heart and hopefully incorporate into your life. I highly recommend that you reach out to Caroline. She is an expert. She is licensed, and she can help you. Let's welcome her to the show, the Harley Street stress expert who's going to help you bust your stress, Caroline Heward.
Woohoo!
Woo-hoo! Yeah, welcome.
Woo!
How are things in London today?
Well, I've been working today, so I haven't seen much of it, but it's pretty cold out here. So we've gone from nice, wonderful, very scorching summer to winter. So it's a brr, the heating's on.
Well, Caroline, it's interesting that you mentioned that, and it's not part of our topic, but I'm going to bring it in. Many times when the seasons change or we have clocks that are resetting, that affects people's ability to sleep. And it doesn't seem like it would be much, really. Maybe an hour forward, an hour back, or the season is changing. Usually it's summer that's changing into fall, and then fall into winter. It's gradual. With climate change, that seems to really not be the case anymore, but it affects people's sleep. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. How do you work with people? You've been doing it for decades and you're excellent at it. What is the approach that you take to really understand what it is that's troubling someone?
I always look at root cause trauma. So if somebody's not sleeping, I ask some very, very specific questions to find out what's changed in their lives, because the symptom is related to an issue in life that they're not handling, not dealing with. So it could be a physical ache and pain, sort of in the leg, back, neck, stomach. It could be sleep issues, relationship issues. So it doesn't kind of matter what it is. It's essentially, I'm looking at the root cause. So not what's happening at that point, but what's happened when it first began. And that literally shifts the emotion up and releases from the root cause trauma, and the person feels incredibly relaxed and more peaceful.
Thanks for sharing that, Caroline. I have a question for you. This might seem a little strange, but it's a question that I've actually heard people discuss in relationships. People who are married or they live together, they share a bed. And I've heard people share this comment, I can't sleep because of you. It's all your fault. You're restless. You make noise. You have the TV on. You're eating in bed, blah, 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 blah. And is it true that what someone else is doing can impact our sleep? Or is it us taking that on that gets us agitated, and then we start getting a little more out of control and more out of control, and then finally we really can't sleep?
That's a really good question, because yes, it's both. If somebody's munching in bed and you're trying to sleep, of course that's going to affect you. And if somebody's tossing and turning and you're in bed and you're sleeping, it can disturb you and wake you up. So yes, that would. And at the same time, some people can just sleep through anything. So it just depends if you're a light sleeper, if you get affected by somebody else in the bed moving. And it's also what's going on for you. I know people that can just sleep through anything. And then there's other people that even if there's a small noise outside, they will wake up. So I don't believe it's that we take something on. I feel that it's more a case of where we are in our sleep cycle. We could be in the lighter sleep cycle where we can awaken much more easily. But when we're in very deep theta sleep cycle, then we probably won't wake up. So it does depend where we are in the sleep cycle, and our sleep cycles are 90 minutes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's just walk through a scenario like yesterday. Yesterday was a big holiday here in the States, and I know people celebrate other places, and people like to enjoy nice meals. It could be on a weekend or a special occasion, or for some people, it's every day. And they overindulge, whether it's food, alcohol, doesn't matter. And they're feeling a little sleepy and they close their eyes, just maybe fall asleep for a few minutes, and then it's time to go to bed and they cannot fall asleep at all. They're looking at the ceiling, they're starting to contemplate life, and then one thing leads to another. Before you know it, it's almost time to wake up.
This is when, if you've gone to bed on a really heavy meal, the body is actually working very hard to process and digest that meal. So it's working as if it's the daytime. So having a really heavy meal and then going to bed is going to be quite hard to sleep because the body is acting as if it's daytime. So it's very important to not have a heavy meal at least 2 to 3 hours before you're considering going to bed. Otherwise, the meal will be still in the process of being digested by the body, and the body will be working really hard. Alcohol, again, you can almost fall asleep because you're tired from the alcohol because it makes us drowsy, same as having a big meal. And then when you wake up, it's because the body has done a lot of the processing of the alcohol, the food, and so the body almost wakes up again. And it's why, it's a known fact not to go to bed on a full meal, not to have coffee because it keeps you awake. There's all sorts of different things that can access the fact that it'll keep you awake. I remember when I was a child, my mum and dad used to always make a hot chocolate or something called, it was like a coffee type thing. It was called Ovaltine, and there was Horlicks, and it was like a milky drink, and it was something that we used to have to make us sleep. Only in times, recent times, understanding that milk is actually like a food, and it'll bulk you out and it will keep you awake. So things that we knew, that I know as a child and that we did, are now being proven to show that they're not the greatest thing to do. So it's really important, in terms of our sleep hygiene, to keep our systems clear, empty. Otherwise, we will be thinking because the body is working.
Thanks for sharing that. And we need to explore the benefits of sleeping. I've heard this, and actually, I was somebody who said this, believe it or not, decades ago. I was like, oh, I only need 4 hours to sleep. I'm doing this, that, and the other. And I was getting 4 hours of sleep, and I felt really good about it. And of course, as time goes on and we get older, we realize that, no, that's not a good thing. But yet, people can function. There are definitely people there who function on very limited sleep. Why is sleep so important? You talked about the fact that our body is processing our food and it's doing its digestive work. But what are the other benefits that are really coming from having a good night's sleep? And what is a good night's sleep?
The body needs to rest and recuperate, and it needs to it needs to sleep in terms of not working. And if it's constantly on the go, so if there's not enough sleep hours, the body will not have had the rest, the sufficient rest it needs for growth and repair, for processing whatever it needs to in terms of, any illnesses, ailments. And it's sort of like if you have a car and you don't fill it with petrol, and you don't check the oil, things start going wrong. And so it's just like that we have to fuel the body with good food, sleep, and plenty of water, because we're 80 parts water. Many people drink a lot of coffee, which every cup of coffee depletes 2 glasses of water, which means it dehydrates us. And so when we sleep, it actually enables us to repair, to heal, and to formulate that space of the body needing that rest period. It absolutely requires a place of rest. In Victorian times, they used to sleep for about 4 hours and then wake up, and they would do 2 or 3 hours and then go back to bed. And because their cycle in terms of the work that they did, their breathing was much, much slower than what ours is today. And so in Victorian times, they didn't need the amount of sleep. And so it's actually not, it was not known to have 8 hours straight out sleep. They used to have 4 hours, get up, do things for a few hours, and then go back to bed. And so if you find that you wake up in the middle of the night, this is actually not a bad thing. If you do a few things, as long as they're not taxing, because the body will be awake, and then the body will naturally feel tired again and want to go to sleep. And it's because in our climate today and in this industrial revolution, our mind is very, very busy, whereas in the Victorian times it wasn't. We weren't as busy in terms of the mental state of alertness. And so we need to rest the mind.
I'm glad you shared that, and you touched on something that really resonated with me. Of course, as always, I was taking this medication that I literally had to take 4 times a day, and I had to set an alarm at 1:05. That's when I picked 1:05 to take it, and I had to take it with food. And anyway, what was happening was I wasn't really able to fall back to sleep. So I'd be lying there, and then I felt so bad because I couldn't fall asleep. So then I just decided to get up. So I got up and I would work for 2.5 hours, and then I'd go back to sleep, and then I'd take the pill again at 7. Thank goodness I'm off of that right now. But the point is, I was able to get some work done, because otherwise I was just lying there feeling horrible about the fact that I couldn't sleep and I wasn't getting anything done. So you feel that that was the appropriate thing to do in that circumstance?
Yeah, I do that. I fall asleep sometimes early in the evening, and then I wake up about midnight. As you see me.
I'm like, she's awake. I can't believe it.
I wake up about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I sort of think, oh, shall I just stay in bed, or shall I go back to sleep? And there's things that I want to do, and I think, well, I'll just have a go and see. And then I have the most productive few hours in that space after I've woken up. And then I literally go back to bed again. And then I sleep really, really deeply. And it's a natural process of sleeping. So if you do wake up in the middle of the night, rather than feeling that it's wrong, rather than feeling, oh my God, I'm an outcast, I'm doing the wrong thing, go with it. Feel comfortable that you woke up, because some people do. And also the twilight hours, 2 o'clock in the morning, the planetary energy is very high. And some people may be quite sensitive because everything's very quiet. And so the planetary energy has a higher frequency. And it might be that affects you. I certainly know that it affects me. And so it's okay. If you're making yourself wrong, that makes you anxious. That makes you stressed, feeling, I should be asleep. Why am I not asleep? So if you wake up, Just get up. Sometimes, I mean, I've cleaned out my fridge before now. My mum is, she's a cleaner. She'll sort of go down into the kitchen and do some cleaning, because she's got some energy, and then she expends the energy as I do. And then when I'm ready, I just go back to bed. So there isn't any right or wrong. We're all different. And if you can sleep 8 hours straight up, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Each person's going to have their own experience. I've got you on Spotlight right now, and I'd love for you to just share, because we have some new people joining. Tell us about this Stress Buster consultation.
I offer a free 30-minute Zoom, Skype, or call on whatever is irking you in terms of your stress. And your stress can be whatever you're complaining about. So whether it's physical, ache and pain, whether it's emotional, sadness, loneliness, heartache, whether it's behavioral, relationship issues, bereavement issues, anger management, whatever it is that you're complaining about is what's causing your stress. And so I offer a free consultation to help uncover the root cause of one symptom. It will literally move you into a state of calmer mind. It will give you an incredible sleep. And more to the point, it will actually uncover the root cause of what's causing your state of stress. If you reach out to me on NoMoreStress@live.co.uk and email me, or call on +44 if you're international, 07523 120 189. And I look forward to helping you bust your stress.
Thanks, Caroline. Okay, back for our topic today. So let's say it has nothing to do with what you had to eat, not have to do with what you had to drink, but you're just feeling anxious. It's been an anxious day, and you typically go to bed at a certain time. And as the time is approaching, I know with me, I've got this Apple Watch, which I love, and it'll tell me, I have it set to a certain time, and half hour before it's time to start shutting things down. As soon as I see that, I'm like, oh, I'm not ready to shut things down. But anyway, there's all kinds of triggers that can set us off. But if we're feeling anxious before it's time to go to bed, should we still go to bed at that set time that we told ourselves every night? I'm going to bed at 9 or 10 or whatever time it is. Or should we stay up and try to work through that anxiety and that stress?
Anxiety is when the mind is overly thinking. It's conversing and it's thinking about future stuff. So when the mind is active and it's thinking about, sort of a report that you need to do, or a meeting that you need to go to, or you start getting anxious about something that hasn't happened, is what anxiety is. Anxiety is a future thing that's not happened. And essentially, it's that the mind is active and thinking about future things that may or may not happen. And when the mind is engaged in that space, it will stay alert. And the thing that I would recommend to empty the mind is maybe to write down what's in the mind. So when you commit it to paper, when you write it down, you're taking it out of the mind and putting it down on paper, so the mind doesn't have to hold on to it, to remember it. And this is what happens. The mind feels that it needs to hang on to all the thoughts because it might forget. And so if you write it down, and then every time that you've written something down, you'll find that it starts to empty the mind. Also, to breathe is the other thing that will calm the mind down. Because when you're anxious, you will be breathing in a really shallow way. You'll be breathing here in the upper chest area. And when you're breathing in that really, really shallow way, it creates more mind. It literally gives you more oxygen in the mind and keeps it active. And so my invitation is to breathe further down into the body, into the belly, into the lower belly, so that when you breathe, you extend the diaphragm and oxygenate the whole body. And when you oxygenate the whole body by expanding the belly as you breathe, you will find that the mind will start to calm. And in that space of calming the mind, you will get better sleep. Because if you're breathing in that very shallow way, more anxiety will appear.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. Thank you. That's really helpful. So, we've covered several topics regarding sleep. Let's say that to the earlier subject that you are a pretty good sleeper, but you're in a relationship with someone who's not. And you've tried all kinds of scenarios and you decide that you're going to relocate to another room to sleep. And now you're sleeping really well, but the other person's not too happy about it. I know you counsel couples and you help people with relationships. Is there a way to bridge that where you just can't sleep well together, but you love one another and you want to be together?
That's a very fascinating subject. And I know a lot of couples that aren't sleeping together at night. And that's because, the one person snores, the other person is fidgeting. It's whatever it is that comes up. And we have to find, we do need our sleep, especially if we're working during the day and we're very busy. And so it's important for each person to find their comfortable solution, because it might not be comfortable to be apart. And at the same time, when you don't get your sleep and in the way that you need it personally, it has a huge effect on you in terms of your health, in terms of your cognition, in terms of your daily activities. And if you haven't had a good night's sleep, for some people they can actually be almost like a bear with a sore head, and just go around with feeling like a head fog because they didn't sleep. So it's critical for some people to get that sleep. And if they don't, then, all hell breaks loose in the body and it doesn't function. Some people can survive on small amounts of sleep. You have to find, if you're in a couple, that space that's personally giving to both of you and comfortable. And it might be the uncomfortable option about not sleeping together, or finding a space to be together at a certain point during the evening and the night, and then going into your separate beds if that's what works for you in terms of getting that deeper sleep.
And staying on this topic of people who have difficulty breathing properly and they have snoring, or sometimes it's almost like they're stopping their breathing, like sleep apnea. What are some recommendations that you can make if you are sleeping with someone and you notice that they're struggling to breathe, or it's almost like they breathe and then they stop breathing? When is it a sign to get some professional help?
Sleep apnea is quite dangerous, because essentially, if you're snoring all the way through the night, you're not actually sleeping, and that can be detrimental to what you think you're doing. You think you're sleeping and nourishing your body, and if you're snoring all night, then you're not sleeping, and so the body isn't getting the nourishing sleep that it needs for rest and repair and restoration. So if the person is continually snoring through the night, then that is where I would go and seek some professional help to find out what it is that's causing it. It could be that some airways, the airways through the nose are blocked. It could be that for some people, they have where sort of at the top of the nose, that it's dropping down the mucus, which is affecting the making the noise of the snoring in the congestive area in the face. So it can be a number of things, and I certainly know of people that have been snoring for many years, and then when they've had a diagnosis, they've been told that it's sleep apnea. And so there's a point with sleep apnea that they don't breathe, that they literally stop breathing. And that can be for like a minute or 2 minutes. So it doesn't take a genius to work out that if that keeps happening, you're actually reducing the oxygen going to the brain in that lack of sleep and stopping breathing. So it is important to, if you're in a couple, to check that out, to make sure that you're in the best possible health experience in your sleep.
Thank you so much. And that is really important information, because I don't think it's anything to play around with. It's really, it can be very serious, and please do go and seek some help. So Caroline, when we also look at how to sleep better, it's also about doing that work, the internal work, looking at the relationships we're in, looking at the choices that we make. And to what you mentioned earlier, it could be something as basic as the food that we're eating. It could be the environment around us. What is that, the room like where we sleep? Is it bright? Is it dark? Is it noisy? Are we sleeping with our pets? That's another topic I'd like to really discuss. Some people have cats, dogs, all kinds of pets, and the pets sleep on the bed, in the bed with them. Can this impact one's ability to sleep?
Yes, of course. Because it's like being with a human being. If you've got a pet there with you, they will be having their breathing cycles, and they will have their own fidgeting. So I won't say, no, you shouldn't, and yes, you should. I would say that it's a very personal decision, whether you sleep with a pet. I certainly feel that it would hinder you, because when you're really deep asleep, you don't know whether they're over your face when you're sleeping. So are you breathing well? Especially if it's a very fluffy cat, for instance. And I know lots of people that go to bed with their cats. But it's not really good hygiene to sleep with your pets, in terms of the pets having the best possible sleep that they need, and you. So I wouldn't recommend it. But then some people, it's like being with another human being, that the pet is like a human being. The other thing that's really important that I would consider is what I would call sleep hygiene, and making sure that your phones are not on the bed, that your laptop, your computer work is not on the bed. We live in so much technology these days that it's important to switch down the technology so that it's not in the space of our sleep, because it has a frequency and a vibration. It can affect you, and it will disturb your sleep because it's still emitting the frequency of the Wi-Fi. So it's really important to make sure that it's not on your bed, that the place that you have as your sleep area is really luxurious for your sleep, that you go into your bedroom and it's a haven to sleep, rather than a minefield of all your technology and your gadgets. I slept for many years with the office in my bedroom, and that was so debilitating. I couldn't wait to find where I'm living now, where it had 2 bedrooms, and literally the office, I can close the door, and it was such a luxury that the bedroom was the bedroom and the office was the office, certainly for people that are working from home, which is very modern in our times, that many people have their office in their bedroom, which is also very unhealthy.
Great points as always. And something I want to touch on in terms of technology, I've actually in the past been in relationships with people who were consumed with television, and we would go to sleep and the television was on all night long. And of course, ultimately, this can be a relationship breaker for sure. But I could never understand, the person would be completely passed out and I'd be wide awake. How does one sleep with the television on? And what's the reason that they do this?
I've fallen asleep with the TV on early in the evening, and it's not a good idea to have the TV on, because it'll be emitting, an energy, a frequency, because we have mainly smart TVs these days. And so, it's using the Wi-Fi, and then we're being bathed in this Wi-Fi, which is really not healthy. Some people, they need background noise. I'm one that needs silence, that sometimes if I'm really, really relaxed, the lull of that, whatever it is, because I have the TV on quite low, will literally just, if I'm relaxed, I can fall asleep. So then I've woken up and the TV's on, oh my gosh, and it's like sort of 1 o'clock midnight, and I've been wanting to watch something and I've fallen asleep to it. And that's because my body needed to rest. But it's not a good idea to have the TV on all night, because most of our TVs are smart and they're using Wi-Fi, and it means that we're creating an environment where there's a lot of frequency from the Wi-Fi that's going to affect us.
Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, I have to laugh because even though I have this television and radio platform, I don't watch television. In fact, right behind me here, behind us, I have a huge big screen television, and I've never turned it on. It's been here for a few years, but I don't know. I don't turn on the television, so I can't imagine going to sleep with the television. Now, I can imagine you're watching television and you fall asleep. That's understandable. But many people actually will turn the television on when they go to sleep.
Oh, well, that's because they need noise. They need
Right.
background noise. They can't sleep in silence. And that's something that I've known of, that people have the TV on because the silence, they can't sleep in it. So yes, I have known of that. Certainly that's not for me. But, sometimes people find silence just too uncomfortable. And it could stem from childhood, where they've always had noise in the background.
Yeah, I do know of especially women who are single and live alone, and they have the television on all the time because they feel like somebody's there.
Yeah, yeah. I used to be like that. I used to have the radio on and the TV on in the background. And now I don't have any of it on. I don't have the radio on, and I don't have the TV on. And if I want to watch something, then I switch it on. I actually unplug it. Because I don't want, all the Wi-Fi around. So if I've got Wi-Fi gadgets, I always unplug them so they're not connected. And the Wi-Fi is in the living room, and my bedroom is quite far away from the living room. So that means that I'm not sitting, in it if it's turned off around me.
And it is all energy. It's
Yes.
energy, and when we're going to sleep, we're conserving our energy, and we're actually going into this mode where the body is able to heal and to process. So one thing I'd like to discuss with the last minutes that we have in our show is the evolution of the need for sleep as we get older. So as a child, children sleep quite often. They sleep long hours, they take naps. Then at a certain age, that starts to dissipate. And then as we get older, we need to take naps, and then we're going to bed earlier, and then we're waking up later. What does that evolution look like? And can you be a little more specific as to what age range we need the most amount of sleep?
Well, when you're a baby, you need feeding at regular intervals. When you're first born, you need to be fed I think it's every 4 hours. You'll have to forgive me, I'm not quite sure of the timing. And that's because the body is digesting in that place. And the baby needs sleep and to be woken up at various intervals, because it's the way that the baby is needing the sleep, the food. And it's important to administer in those timings and those schedulings for the young baby, because they can't take in the amount of food that the baby needs all in one go. So they need to take it in small amounts. So this is, what as an adult you might call grazing. And as we, start to grow, then we do need less And the way that schooling is, shorter hours, so that, I remember when I was a child that we were in bed for 7, and it was a late night if we were up till 8 or 9, and that was like sort of really, really late for us. I know things have changed dramatically in our current times, that, children are up much later, and they are waking up feeling very, very tired. So it's important to acknowledge the personal requirements of each person. And some children might need more sleep than others. So that's, we are all individuals, we're human at the end of the day. And when we get older, then we almost revert back to being the child again. And there's many people that say, that our parents look after us and, take care of us as babies. And then it moves to the child taking care of the parent as the parent gets older, because they move into a space of needing the sleep, needing the rest, taking breaks, not being able to do as much. And it's about listening to the body, understanding that we're not a machine, and also feeding it the right nutritious food and drinks, because sometimes we fall into bad habits and we don't drink and eat what we need to nourish our body.
Wow, you really summed up so many key points. And obviously, sleep is a vital part of our being, our overall wellness. And I'd like for you to just touch on the mental health aspect when we are sleep deprived. I don't know for how long, when does that sleep deprivation really equate to some type of mental degradation?
It's different strokes for different folks again, and some people can survive for quite a long time with very little sleep. And it does catch up with you, because it will lower your system in terms of your restorative system. Because when we're sleeping, this is when our body is in its growth hormone. It's repairing, it's doing all the things that it should be doing in a place of rest. And if you're not getting the right amount of rest during the nighttime, it can affect you in the daytime. And some people feel very, very sluggish in the afternoon, for instance, after they've had lunch, or very sluggish after breakfast, because the body hasn't had the amount of rest and recuperation that it requires. I certainly know if I've gone all night and I've just kind of, had the energy to go all night and be working on something, that the next day I'll keep going, and then I'll just fall asleep at about 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. And I don't ever feel that that's bad or that's wrong, because if I lost a night's sleep, then the body's saying, hey, I need to sleep, I need to rest. And so it's about listening to your body rather than just pushing through, because we're not machines and we're all different. And it will start to affect our mental health and well-being when we continually don't get the sleep that it requires. Because if you're not nourishing the brain with enough sleep, then it will create a toxic environment, and the mind then will create this anxiety, stress, because it's like filling a car with petrol, with oil. It needs everything to nourish it, to keep it going. And if you're not sleeping, then the body will start to break down. The mind will start to malfunction almost, because it needs that sleep, it needs the rest. You'll feel dizzy, you'll feel almost like you're going to faint. You'll get very headachy if there's not enough sleep. You'll know, because you will just feel out of sorts. And if you're not eating enough, you will know, because when you've had something to eat, you'll feel better. And so if you feel any of these things, is, sleep, food and water, this is about nourishing the body, because if you don't, it has an effect physically, emotionally, and mentally. And better to look after your body and your mind rather than having to look after it when it's too late. So the whole idea.
Thank you.
I lost you for a minute. It went silent. I wasn't quite sure what happened. So sleep is really, really important, and it's really important to get what you need, what you personally need, in order to make sure that you function the best possible way and nourishing your body, your mind, and most importantly, your family. You'll be much better as a person to yourself and your family and everyone around you. So if you do have any sleep problems, please feel free to reach out on NoMoreStress at live.co.uk, or call me on +44 0 if you're local, 7523 120 189. And I look forward to helping you bust your stress. Whatever the symptom is, allow me to help you understand and create an awareness as to what's causing that symptom. Each symptom will be related to an issue in life that you're not handling. But when we're in it, we can't see it. And that's where I come in. So please reach out and allow me to help you literally bust your stress. It's important to manage anxiety, especially if it overwhelms you, because when the mind keeps going, then it causes challenges for sleep. So if your mind keeps going, I really highly recommend breathing, always taking a pause. And if there's something that's bothering you, make sure that you find the space to stop, to breathe, and to ensure that you are looking after yourself. And when you feel anxious, the most unnatural thing is to breathe. And so the invitation here is to step into a place of what would feel unnatural, and it will calm your mind into silence. And when the mind calms through breathing all the way down into the belly, you will feel different and easier and better. Well, it's been an amazing show. I really want to thank you for joining us. I think we've got a couple of shows coming straight afterwards. It's been really wonderful to share the anxiety and stress with you, and I really look forward to seeing you next week on Friday. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.